I'm Pat Victorson. I am the president of NAMI Prince William. That's the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
So, what inspired you to be a part of NAMI?
Well, it's very personal with me, as it is with just about all NAMI members. We are folks with lived experience. So we are people who either have experienced a mental health condition ourselves, or have a loved one living with a mental health condition. And in some cases, it's both. So you could be experiencing a mental health condition yourself, sometimes as a result of your relative's illness, because it's very, very stressful coping with someone who has a serious mental illness, or it could be, part of your journey. Also, we know that there's a strong genetic element to mental health conditions, so it does tend to run in families. But again, it's a personal connection. It goes all the way back to the 1970s. Um, and my sister. NAMI wasn't founded until 1979, and I very much wish, and I often say this when I'm giving presentations, that NAMI had been around in the early 1970s for my mother, who was caring alone for my sister. My sister was a very bright young woman. She had just started a master's degree program. She was a talented musician, very popular. She'd been one of the cheerleaders in high school, all that sort of thing. Just on a great track to success when she was struck by a mental health condition. Um, Back then, because of the stigma, my mother never told my husband and I that she was coping with my sister's illness. My husband and I were serving overseas in the military. And my mother didn't reveal it for several years, that she was dealing with this on her own as a widow. So I very much wish that NAMI had been in existence back then, not only to break down the stigma, but also provide support for family members. NAMI, again, we serve folks living with a mental health condition and their families. And we know that folks with a mental health condition are at least 50% more likely to recover from that condition if they have the support of their family members. So again, it goes all the way back to my sister. And then it also, my personal connection, most immediate connection with NAMI grew out of my son's mental health condition, because he also has a diagnosis. And I was just desperate for years trying to find support and understanding from the schools, from the medical system, and I just wasn't getting it. And finally, a friend of mine turned me on to NAMI. I enrolled in a family to family course, which is NAMI's signature education program. And it just opened up everything for me. It just made a huge difference because suddenly I was in a room with people who were coping with the same things that I was dealing with. And as a result of that class, I decided I was going to become a family to family teacher myself. And I just kept getting more and more involved with NAMI. So that was back in 2008. And I've been more and more engaged with NAMI since then, because I've just seen the difference is made in so many people's lives. I received so many thanks from folks who have benefited from our programs, whether it's educational programs, support programs, our helpline, or advocacy.
And you said about family, and you also do peer to peer. I live with bipolar disorder too. And the biggest thing that helps me is hearing other people's experiences and succeeding.
Mhm.
Do you feel that way too?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, my husband and I also facilitate a family support group. And that's what we hear from family members all the time, that, they're really discouraged, they're really down. And while they'll see and hear that things may not be perfect for us and our son, who also has that bipolar diagnosis, um, um, they come to understand that while we can't solve all problems, we can make a difference. And we have principles of support in our support groups that I think help people come to terms with mental health conditions and help them find ways of coping and advocating for their loved ones. And the same thing with our peer groups. Again, people find support and hope in knowing that other people are coping with mental health conditions, and that there are ways of dealing with it that we may not have thought of. But when we get together with other people, we hear things from a different perspective. Maybe someone shares an idea and you can say, hey, that might work for me. It's like a light going off for folks. So I think the mutual support and the educational programs are really very, very helpful. And then we're expanding greatly. We have a whole variety of new NAMI programs that are being developed and that we're offering to meet the needs of special populations. For example, we have a new program that we've just started here in Prince William called NAMI on Campus, because we know that youth outreach is very important. So many families are concerned about rising mental health statistics around youth and mental health. The Centers for Disease Control have talked about the great increase, particularly in young women who are experiencing serious mental health conditions with suicidal ideation and extreme anxiety, depression, other situations. So I think people are very concerned about our youth. And one way that we are now, we've just started this program in high schools. Previously, NAMI on Campus was available on college campuses. But this is new. This is the first year we've been able to offer it in high schools. In fact, I'm going to be going to a high school next week. We'll be meeting with a new club that has started at Woodbridge Senior High School, and they have just been going gangbusters with programs to support other youth in the school. NAMI on Campus, it's not a support group. It's not. It's really a school club around or organized by young people who are interested in the topic of psychology and mental health, but who are keen to serve their fellow students by offering encouragement and programs in their school to support mental health and raise awareness. So NAMI on Campus, again, is a new program. We're talking to other high schools in the area about establishing clubs at their schools. And I have a small grant to help support part of that. We also have Ending the Silence that's geared toward youth. We have three versions, one for folks living with a mental, or rather for middle and high school students. So for students, we just finished doing 4 sessions for Manassas Park High School for students in their 9th grade PE program. So that was 136 students that we presented to over 4 sessions. We hope to expand that. But again, we are an all-volunteer organization right now, and it really depends on finding new presenters all the time. So we are looking actively for young adults defined as someone between the ages of 18 and 30 who would like to become one of our presenters for that program. The other version of Ending the Silence is for family members, for parents. And then we have a third version for school staff, because although most schools may have a social worker or perhaps a mental health worker on staff, most of the counselors have some mental health background. The school staff overall has not had mental health education. And this program, the Ending the Silence for School Staff, is designed particularly for the classroom teacher, for the coach, for the classified staff, for the office staff, for the cafeteria workers, for the janitors, for the bus drivers, for other folks who work with youth but don't have that mental health education as part of their background. So that's another version of Ending the Silence. And besides NAMI on Campus and Ending the Silence, we also have a program called Children's Challenging Behaviors. And that is for parents of children. So it's for people like me, you know, whose son became ill while actually in elementary school. And I really needed support. I had no idea what was going on. No one else seemed to know what was going on. You know, the teachers and the school staff, they seemed clueless, or, you know, when it came to school success, my son was very bright. And the school counselors were more concerned about getting him into college than they were with addressing the problems that he was having at school. So again, it's very personal for me. So Children's Challenging Behaviors is for parents like me who have children between the ages of 0. So we start very young, because very young children can have mental health conditions, up to age 17. So school age children. We actually do go up to age 20, because we know that some children have special needs and they may be in school for a longer period of time. But we've offered, we're going to be offering our 4th Children's Challenging Behaviors actually this coming Saturday. And it will be our first program, Children's Challenging Behaviors in Spanish. The other ones that we've been doing were in English. And we are the only affiliate in the state of Virginia currently offering programming in Spanish. So one of our focuses is really trying to do outreach to those underserved communities, including newcomers. So we have a small grant from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, and we've used that to bring an AmeriCorps member to Prince William County and to NAMI. And she has a background being the child of Afghan immigrants to the United States. She speaks Dari at home. Dari is the 3rd most spoken language in Prince William County school homes. And so we are trying to do outreach to the Dari speaking community now. So again, we have a lot of Afghan refugees coming into Prince William County. So that is another interest of ours. So I could go on talking about a lot of different programs. I don't know if you want me to continue in this vein. We have another new program that we're planning to introduce this summer, and it's called NAMI Hearts Plus Minds, and it is a holistic health program. So people we know who are living with chronic pain, chronic health disorders such as heart disease or diabetes, people who are suffering with obesity and other conditions, but people who in general are just concerned about their health. We know that these health concerns can also produce mental health concerns as well. So this is a holistic health program addressing, again, concerns of folks with chronic pain, with chronic illnesses, but it also incorporates a lot of information about nutrition. We know how important nutrition is to support our health in general, but especially for folks with mental health conditions. And then coping strategies, mindfulness, other techniques. So this is a new program, again, holistic program, and we're hoping that this will be an open door for folks who may not feel they have a mental health condition, but maybe there is something there. And we hope that they'll come to hear about our holistic health program, but that those who come may also recognize that they have a mental health condition that would benefit from treatment as well. So that's a new program. Another new program that we would like to start here, again, a lot of this depends on recruiting adequate volunteer base. So lots of programs we could offer if we have the volunteers who are stepping up to assist with these programs. So that's NAMI Homefront, which is specifically for veterans and their families. Another one is NAMI Provider, which is a program to educate medical professionals. Just like school staff don't get a lot of education about mental health, most doctors, most physicians don't have a large, they'll have maybe one class on mental health or a segment of their education on mental health. But we know that primary care providers and hospital emergency room doctors and staff are often the first line for mental health treatment. And we want to make sure that they have adequate education, particularly from the peer perspective. So hearing from people who have that mental health condition so that the medical providers know what's going to help them, as well as the importance of working with family members. This particular presentation, NAMI provider has 3 presenters. So a peer, someone who has experienced the medical system as a person with a mental health condition, so that the medical providers can hear from the peers, the folks that they're serving, from the family member who wants to be engaged in helping their loved one recover. And then the third person is actually a mental health professional who has some lived experience, whether that person had perhaps a mental health condition themselves or has a loved one with a mental health condition. And having that mental health professional, of course, lends a great deal of weight to this program because they're hearing from a medical professional as well. So this is another program that we're hoping to begin training our volunteers in February, and then being able to offer that program in the community in the near future.
So for me, similar to your story, I get, treatment for my mental illness, but it also affects my wife and kids every day. How important is it for them to have a support system as well?
Tremendously important. I talked about my experience with my son, and then years later, after I became a teacher, I got my husband to take the class, and so he had a much better understanding after that of what our son was going through and how we could help him. And then he became a NAMI support group facilitator, as I mentioned. So once you see the benefits, that's why we often say, come and see. In fact, we have a new family to family class that's starting this coming Monday. Folks who want to take advantage of that, that's an 8-session course. It's taught by family members who have loved ones with a mental health condition. And again, all of our volunteers are there with lived experience. So our peer presenters, and we do have a connection support group, which is specifically for folks living with the mental health condition. And then we have family support group, both in English, and we have a Spanish speaking group as well for the family members. And it's an opportunity for family members to come and talk about what they're dealing with right now. We try to keep those groups in the here and now. It's not about hashing over, I wish I'd done this or that or the other thing, but it's, let's see what we can do right now. What are you coping with right now? Do you have particular problems that you're dealing with? Do you need referrals to services? Do you want to just hear about how perhaps other family members have coped with a similar situation? That benefits folks because when you hear that, oh, so-and-so was coping with difficulty in dealing with, I'm just going to pull something out of a hat. All of a sudden, my son's medications aren't working anymore, and he's decompensating. I'm seeing signs of difficulties again, and we're having a terrible time, getting an appointment, all this other sort of thing. So, helping families with things like that. Explaining new services that are available in the community. That's something we really try to keep folks updated on, like the new crisis receiving center that will be coming, like the new 988 number that's replaced the National Suicide Crisis Lifeline number. Again, helping family members understand what their loved one is going through, developing empathy and understanding, especially, for folks with a diagnosis of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder who may have a manic episode or a psychotic break. That's really hard for families to understand.
Yeah.
And again, that we try to convey, what the reality is for the person living with the mental health condition. That is their reality. And you can't talk a person out of something that, is really a clear and present reality for them. The best thing that you can do is say, I think you must be going through a very difficult time. Can you tell me what I can do to support you? What can I do to help you? And be there for that person. So not trying to reason someone out of what is their reality, but being there and being supportive and saying, I'm here for you. And tell me what you're experiencing and what I can do to help you.
And with the Crisis Receiving Center coming to Prince William County, the county has an extra focus on mental health care. How does something like the center help your mission?
Oh, it's just tremendous because we have, as I say, we have a helpline. We have the support groups and the educational programs, and families always come to us with horror stories about the needs of their family members not being met. The same thing goes for peers who have sometimes terrible outcomes because of misplaced responses to their crises. It could be a response from the police. It could be a response, a negative response in a hospital emergency department. And that's why this provider education is important. That's why we assist with crisis intervention team training for police. And there have been great improvements in Prince William County. So the fact that our officers and jail staff and others who interact with folks with mental health conditions in the criminal justice system, we have an excellent crisis intervention team training that's done by the county, and we participate in that. And there is now a co-responder team in the county, which a mental health professional from community services rides along with a police officer as backup. But again, it's the mental health therapist who is the lead on responding to a call. And then, of course, in more serious situations where weapons and imminent threat of suicide are involved, where police response is still called upon. But we know that sometimes those outcomes are not good. It still may end in suicide, tragically. We've had cases involving adults and youth alike. But the Crisis Receiving Center concept is part of SAMHSA's National Crisis Now model. So SAMHSA is the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, and they have come up with a national model called Crisis Now, and it addresses mental health concerns across a continuum. We call these intercepts. So sometimes the first level will be simply someone seeking assistance, information. And 988 is a service that can provide basic information and referrals. The next level is, let's say there's something actively going on and the person can't get an appointment with a doctor. So a mobile crisis unit, and there are two types of crisis units that are available that can come to people's houses. And that obviates the need for calling police. So many families are happy about that. And then the next level, of course, is a co-responder team. And then sadly, sometimes it does require that police response. But the neat thing about this crisis receiving center is that even though our community services is trying to offer what they call same-day access, it's still very hard to get an appointment right away. And you may know, your family may know that sometimes you really have to strike while the iron is hot. And if you have a family member who's willing, they finally got to the point where, hey, I really do want to do something about the way I'm feeling, please help me. And you can't get an appointment, and you can't get in to see community services, which is of course, our first line governmental response agency. I've been through situations like this. Um, you know, um, we had an incident experience a number of years ago in which we had to wait in desperation after our son had been arrested, actually. And we were still trying to get mental health care. Even though he'd been arrested, we still couldn't get him care. And we finally found a doctor who would take him. His situation was complicated because he not only has bipolar disorder, but co-occurring substance abuse issues. And at that time, most, for example, the hospital, Prince William Hospital in Manassas, would not treat anyone with a mental health condition who had co-occurring substance abuse issues unless they had been substance free for 6 months. So the hospitals turned us away. And I finally found a doctor up in Arlington who was willing to see him, but it took 6 months to get an appointment. So we were just on tenterhooks trying to keep our son out of the criminal justice system and out of total breakdown, a crisis for 6 months, and we were not successful. It was a horrible, horrible time. So this crisis receiving center means that my family, in that crisis mode back in 2010, we would have been able to take our son directly to a crisis receiving center, and they would see him right away. We would not be turned away. It would be an open door. It would be life-changing for families like ours. And I know that we are not the only ones, because I hear from people all the time about the crises that they're dealing with. So that crisis receiving center means that my family could bring our son in, that an individual could walk in off the street and say, hey, I've run out of my medications. I'm decompensating. Things are getting awful for me. What can I do? And they will have a pharmacy on site and can provide the medications that the person needs and the support that they need to stabilize. Also, if that individual, we know that we have 2 so-called crisis assessment centers. One is at Sudley North and one is at the Ferlazzo building. That's another place where police can drop people off. But they only have capacity for one person at a time, and it's only short term. It's no more than 23 hours. And if they can't find a place to treat them, a hospital bed, the person is gone again. Police are so excited about this crisis receiving center because instead of taking people either to jail or to the ER and waiting for days in an ER, because we know that ERs use triage. They're going to treat the person who is bleeding, has a heart attack, a stroke, broken bones first. The mental health condition, because they're not presenting with that physical condition initially. They may be, but not usually. They're going to wait for sometimes days. And if the police brought them in, the police have to wait there days. And so our police are very happy that they're going to be able to get their officers back on the street, because instead of taking them to the ER or to jail, they can take them to the crisis receiving center, drop them off at a separate entrance, and within 5 minutes be able to get back to their real job and be back on the street serving our residents here in Prince William, not sitting in a hospital ER with a person with a mental health condition. So we are very, very excited about it. We know that it's not going to be resolving all problems, because we still don't have enough long-term mental health beds in the state of Virginia. The state has a big problem, and I know the one hospital that does have mental health beds here in Prince William, which is now UVA Health, they are not able to operate at capacity because of the severity of the patients that they are receiving now. These are patients who previously would have been admitted to a state hospital for a forensic clearance, forensic care, and the state hospitals are overwhelmed as well. So again, it's the crisis receiving center for folks with serious long-term mental health conditions. It's not going to resolve all of their issues, and it's not going to resolve all the long-term issues that we have in terms of housing.
Yeah.
So we have a huge need for permanent supportive housing for folks with very serious mental health conditions. Because not everybody is like you who is living in recovery. There are some folks who will have lifelong difficulties because their mental health condition has affected them cognitively, and they're not able to hold down a job or function without support. So we have a huge need for permanent supportive housing. That's a great unmet need. So their crisis receiving center won't resolve all of our problems, but boy, it will help some major problems. So that's why we've been so very actively advocating for it. Our Board of Supervisors have seen how important this is. They've heard from the police, they've heard from the Hospital Association, they've heard from Community Services. And another great organization that has joined our advocacy is VOICE, which stands for Virginians Organized for Interfaith Community Engagement. So, and that's composed of congregations, mosques, and synagogues. So faith leaders who have been stepping up along with their congregations to demand better mental health services for everyone. So again, it's been a big coalition coming together. The advocacy efforts are not complete. We're still trying to get an additional $2 million in funding for the youth wing at our crisis receiving center. And then we'll need to make sure that both the state and the county provide ongoing funding for that crisis receiving center. But we're very excited about it. So pleased that the county purchased the building in which the crisis receiving center will be housed, and that the county will be able to co-locate other agencies that will be serving folks with mental health conditions in the same building. So crisis receiving center is just wonderful, not the cure to everything. We need a cure for mental illness.
Right.
That's what we really need. But anyway, it's a big step in the right direction, and I'm so pleased that all these advocates have pulled together to support it. Prince William County can be proud of itself.
You talked a little bit earlier about programs helping students. Have you seen students be more open just talking about mental health than adults?
Oh, I think they are. I think they're much more open. You'll still find special populations. And by that, I mean perhaps newcomer populations. Certain cultures are in denial still about mental health. That can extend to the African-American population or Spanish speakers, other newcomers in which, the countries that they come from, mental health simply isn't a concept. It's handled very differently than it is in this country. Folks may be in denial about it, but there's a great deal for need of education for those communities. But I think on average, young people are much more open to discussing mental health. So I think establishing these NAMI on campus clubs is a great step. We're concerned overall, though, about youth wellness, and there are a number of problems that are perhaps not necessarily directly related to mental health, but we have issues about youth economic insecurity in families where youth have to go out and work as well as go to school, and sometimes work takes the priority because they have to bring an income home. There are a lot of families in which youth are taking on huge responsibilities, taking care of younger siblings when their parents have to go out to work, issues with truancy, just a whole raft of issues that youth are dealing with. That includes, sadly, gun violence and violence in the schools. So I think that's another area where it's not just mental health, but it's can be, there's an intersection there between mental health and wellness, and some very alarming youth behaviors that we're seeing today. So that's another area that we're hoping to work on. And in fact, I'm going to be meeting with someone this afternoon on that very topic. So we have ongoing community conversations. We have some coalitions in this county in which we participate. So the Prevention Coalition, which is mental health and substance abuse. So that is a very active ongoing coalition. We also have a Greater Prince William Healthcare Coalition. We are partnering, as I said, with Voice, Virginia's Organized Interfaith Community Engagement. We're also finding a great partner in some of the African American sororities, the Divine Nine, such as Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Kappa Alpha, and others. Some of the men's organizations now are stepping up, and they are fabulous partners. So actually, we're going to be working with Delta Sigma Theta for a new outreach to the African American and African ancestry community called Sharing Hope. And that is a faith-based orientation, but we're going to be partnering with Delta Sigma Theta to offer that in the Greater Prince William area.
Wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
How can people reach out and learn more?
Well, we have a helpline. I'll have to say it's just a message taking service, but we have an email address. We have a website. So our email address is info, I-N-F-O, at NAMI, NAMI-PW.org, and they can address questions there. They can look on our website, which is NAMIPW.org. And I'm happy for folks who contact us. I will give out my personal phone number, and I do respond personally to calls that we receive. Again, our family to family course, which is starting this Monday, and we have ongoing classes throughout the year. We invite people to that. The information is on our website, or people again can contact us at the NAMI email address. But we are also very present at local resource fairs. In fact, we're doing 3 resource fairs this week alone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we did the Martin Luther King Day, the oratorical contest at Colgan High School. We're going to be at Osborne High School on Wednesday for Officer TJ Rodriguez's E3 parent program, and that topic will be anti-trafficking, and another very serious topic. But we will have a resource table there because trafficking and mental health, sadly, also overlap. And then we will be at the Ferlazzo building in Woodbridge on Thursday for a reentry connections meeting. And that is to support folks who are reentering society from our jail. So we also work with our jail. We work with the program called Divert, which is jail diversion. We work with probation and parole. So just any organization that intersects with mental health, we're trying to be there. So we also have another outreach. I mentioned that we have a DARI speaker, an AmeriCorps member, and part of her project is to create a newcomer parent outreach program. And we're working with Prince William County Schools and with local mosques and other organizations. on that outreach to those newcomer families.
Well, I
So
want to, oh, yes, please.
yeah, just but again, we are apart from our AmeriCorps member, she receives a small stipend, and she's been wonderful. We're just thrilled to have her. But we are an all volunteer organization, and we depend on donations because our programs, even though we're volunteers, we have a lot of expenses. When we do our children's challenging behaviors programs, we try to make it as easy as possible for parents to attend. So we provide free meals and we provide on-site childcare, and that costs money. And we have fortunately partners who often provide space for free, but sometimes we do also have fees that we have to pay for room use, that sort of thing. So we need donations, but we need volunteers. And we need a deep bench of volunteers, and we particularly need youth volunteers between the ages of 18 and 30, and we need peers. We need a bigger peer voice. So folks who are living with that mental health condition, but who are in recovery, we really need them to step up and volunteer as well for our peer programs.